A whole cake over me. Hey Hodies, welcome back to my channel and welcome to the After Sass, the Critical Sass after show, where I try to walk the walk after talking about new makeup releases and really try to love on my collection as it currently is. If you happen to be new to my channel, hi, welcome. I would love to have you subscribe. My channel is mostly about this, where I don't want to bring in every new thing just because I'm excited about it or it looks exciting. I try to sit with it and unpack it, and that's what we do here. So if that sounds interesting to you, I would love to have you subscribe. Make sure you like this video, and I'm on patreon.com if you'd like to support me there. It's patreon.com/hautemesstom. Let's just jump into the video. We talked about many things, but I feel like it's always like it's so much eyeshadow. Whenever I do these videos, I don't always have like a full face to do because of the nature of makeup releases, because right now everything's about eyeshadow palettes. Sit back, relax. If you're doing your makeup, do your makeup with me. I am trying to rapidly finish up this Victoria Beckham Cell Rejuvenating Priming Moisturizer. I do want to show you the consistency is starting to change. It's starting to like separate a little. It doesn't smell like crayons or anything. It still smells like it usually smells, but I can't tell if that's because I'm getting to the end or that I've had the product for a year. Something to keep in mind. This would not be a problem if this was my only primer, because I would love for it to be my only primer. I have other things that I like to cycle through that I use as primers, so this isn't always like a priority for me to use. It is currently, because I'm trying to use it up, but throughout the year I was just, you know, trying using other things. So if I wasn't on YouTube and if I didn't have a bunch of gratis that I like rolled into from Sephora into my YouTube channel, I feel like I would just commit to this. I do wonder though how long it would take me to use up one of these if it was the only thing I used whenever I was wearing primer. I don't really need to color correct today, so I'm gonna leave the green color corrector. And then I'm going to actually start with my concealer today. So I have these Surratt Dewdrop concealers. I'm going to be using shades 1 and 2. I've talked about these many times. I think this is my favorite concealer. Spoiler alert for end of the year, best of the year. The likelihood of these being there is very, very high. I've actually been thinking a lot about end of the year content. It's almost the end of the year. In fact, I need to start editing the stuff that's going to go up when I'm away. So I'm going to Vegas in a couple of weeks, which that is the part that's bananas to me. I forget whenever I like got invited to this event, the Creators and Friends holiday event. It was when Tiffany was living here, and I remember like getting it and I was like, oh my god, I got invited to a thing. So I've been thinking about what I want to wear to that. That's been the priority. Also, okay, can we talk about something? I love serpent jewelry. I love serpent accents. I'm so tired of people being like, just because I like something that has a snake on it, being like, that's Reputation coded. I understand that Taylor Swift used snake imagery in all of the Reputation era stuff and also in the Eras tour, but just because Taylor Swift used serpent imagery doesn't mean that everything I buy is because Taylor Swift used serpent imagery, okay? Also, not only that, whenever that was all happening, I feel like, and it doesn't matter because no one owns serpent imagery, but it was right around the time on All Stars 2 where Alaska got called a snake and everyone was leaving snake emojis in Alaska's comments from eliminating Tati. And then Taylor Swift came out with all of this serpent imagery. I'm just saying it's not out of the realm of possibility that Taylor Swift saw that. I also feel like people were leaving serpent, like leaving the snake emoji in all of her things. What did Taylor Swift do at that time exist? I don't remember why we were mad at her. We meeting other people, I wasn't mad at her. Let's do a little bit of after sassing, shall we? If you happen to be new here and you didn't watch Critical Sass is my new makeup release video. And in this video, I try to use things that I already have and relate them to the new thing and like tell myself I don't need the new thing. Now, it doesn't mean that I'm interested in the new thing I'm talking about. This is to help me and to help you like build the habit of like looking at our collections first before making a purchase. So that's what we're doing here. It's not like always like because I want it. It's because like there's this new thing that a lot of people are excited about, or just like this new thing coming out, and like newness is the spice of life, right? As soon as something's not new anymore, then it's not exciting for most people. But I'm more about quality, not so much about newness when it comes to the makeup that I use on a regular basis. Armani is releasing a new foundation. Armani makes a complexion product that I both love and also makes one that I hate. I actually did not get on with the Armani Luminous Silk Foundation. I did a review. It's like an aged video on my channel. It's one of the, I think it's like the first foundation review I did, and it did not go well. It enhanced my pores and enhanced all of the texture on my face, which that was like years ago, 3 years ago. Not to say that like I feel like my skin is like aged a lot in 3 years, but like, think about that contextually too, is like it was my 30-year-old skin, not my 33-year-old skin. And again, I understand the grand scheme of time, that's not too far. And also, like, my body isn't shutting down so fast, but it is, like I'm on the other side. My body isn't doing good things anymore. I feel like my body is only doing bad things at this point. It looked like it was a mask sitting on my face. It never became one with my skin. It was very interesting for that. And I do like dewy or finished things, even though I have oily skin, which is something I mention a lot, but I feel like it's been a minute. So let's refresher. I have very oily skin, but I still prefer the look of a dewy foundation because my skin's gonna look like that anyway. And I find that trying to mattify my skin ends up looking worse than just leaning into what my skin will probably organically look like without the mattification of like the powders inside of a matte foundation. Now I still use powders externally, like we're going to talk about powders in a second. Back to the original thought. Armani makes the Luminous Silk Concealer, which is nothing like the foundation, and I love the concealer. Did not get on with the foundation. So they're releasing this new foundation, but it's an Asia only release. So that really helps to like quench the thirst of like, I can't even buy it right now. But some of you may live in Asia if you're watching my channel. So if I maybe I can help talk you out of it. But I imagine if it goes well over there that they would bring that here, but they would need to add more shades. So I don't know if it's like them soft launching. I feel like we as a beauty community need to understand and I don't. By the way, I'm saying this like I would love to know why some things get released in Asia that seem really cool that never come to America or like any other place. America, that was very selfish of me, but any other country. Do I have toothpaste on my chest hair? My whole thought is let me use my favorite foundation. I feel like I haven't used it a bit, especially on camera. I love the Surratt Dewdrop foundation and I just want to use it today. So we're going to use it. I'm going to give it a good shake. If you are new to here, this is my favorite foundation. I talk about it all the time. It's been my favorite foundation for the past couple of years. Like nothing has taken over. It is what it is. And, Surratt's also a brand that I really like. And also I'm fairly certain that they said that Surratt has gifted for this event that I'm going to. And I'm like, ooh, more Surratt. I wonder if it'll all be stuff that I already that I already have. But maybe if I can get my hands on the number 3 concealer, I will. But who knows? I bet it's mostly eyeshadows and like blushes and stuff. I might need to re-up on this. I feel like it is harder to pump than usual. I've lamented the packaging of this particular product many times, even though it is my favorite goop. It's in the stupidest goop holder, The reason I love this foundation, and also this will be the first time you're seeing it in 4K, which is, kind of exciting. The reason I like this because I feel like this is not so much a foundation based in coverage. It is a foundation that's mostly about blurring and light refraction. And I love that because I don't really like need the most coverage. My biggest concern I would say right now is like redness, and it definitely evens out redness, but there's not a lot that I'm looking to cover up. Like I obviously have like moles and sometimes I have a little bit of breakouts, but even then, even when I have like a bit of a breakout, I'm not really looking to cover it up, and I just like love that finish. It's also not the most luminous thing that I've ever used on my skin and have enjoyed because it is called the Dewdrop, which I think may lead some people to believe that it's going to be like so wet. Yeah, it's certainly not a matte foundation by any stretch of the word. Another thing I don't like about this is that I can't see into it. So I have no idea how much is left at any given time because I'm just like, did I get all of it out? And I just think that this formula is very forgiving, especially if you do have concerns of aging. Now, I wouldn't recommend this foundation to anyone who has like a lot of acne or a lot of like scarring or a lot of texture because I don't know that it's going to look really great over that. I would probably go with something that has more of like a matte or like a satin finish if that was the case, and this doesn't really provide that. In my critical sass, I talked about Burberry's new powder. So Burberry is launching this or has launched this new powder that has, I don't know, some kind of white center, and then it only comes in 4 shades. Now, I can't say that I use powders from companies that have the best shade range, but in my critical sass, I talked about how I recently purchased this Givenchy Prism Libre. I'm going to use this. Now, I also said in that video that I use a couple other powders, so I will walk you through my powder routine. I think it's really important as I do this, if you're like in your head screaming because you're like, I can't believe they're putting this many powders. I never feel like I look powdery after I do it. And also one time I got a comment, it's like, how do you put that many powders on your face and then still look glowy? Well, one, I think it's the quality of the powder. So under my eyes, I use the Charlotte Tilbury Airbrush Brightening Powder, and I have the lightest shade. I can't read the back anymore. My packaging is so messed up. And I just put that under the eyes because I do like a bit of brightening under the eyes, but I don't really like to do it with my concealer anymore. And I found that this powder is like a good way to do it. This now comes in a mini. When I bought it, I think it was like a new release. I did a Charlotte Tilbury brand review. It only came in this size. If I run out of this and I decide to purchase again, I would just buy the mini because like I literally just put it on the center of my face. I literally just use it like here down the nose and like in the center of the forehead and like maybe like a little on the chin or on the nose, but like that's where I use it. Then for the rest of my face, I'll go in with a setting powder. So I'm going to use the Prism Libre. As I said in the video, I now know I don't really super love loose powder. And you might be like, how could you not remember that? It's just been like, it's been a while. The last time I used loose powder, I was still baking my face with powder when I would use powder. So it had been some time and I was doing like a lot more intense looks and like having, you know, that kind of powder was like helpful to like put under my eyes when I was baking to do colorful looks on the eyes. Now I always did my eye makeup first, but like it just feels like I'm a little bit past loose powder. That's after the Prism Libre powder, which I think does a little bit of blurring and I think it looks really good. I might be picking up too much with my brush, but I find that I think it makes me look more powdery than the Charlotte Tilbury one does, and not this one, but the regular Charlotte Tilbury one, the one that like their finishing powder that's in the shade Fair, like they're just their regular airbrush powder. I really like it. I hate that I like it because it's like, I don't know. But Charlotte Tilbury, for some reason, keeps making products that I end up trying and enjoying, and I don't really know what that's about. And then I finish. Now, this is a finishing powder, so in theory, you could put all your other powders on your face and then like use this. But this is the Chantecaille Perfect Blur Finishing Powder. And this has been like the combo that I've been doing recently. And I also have another newer powder to me from Sisley. And then the blur powder, I just kind of put where my pores would be the largest, so kind of the front of my cheeks. For this powder specifically, it works better to buff in. I have found that whenever you just sweep it on your face, it like doesn't really have the magic happen. And that's kind of the powder routine that I've been doing. For the rest of the face, there wasn't any like blush releases. Like Adele's potential beauty brand, I guess we could kind of talk our way through. But in reality, what I want to do with my bronzer, blush, and highlight is just use some stuff I haven't used in a while, and I'll tell you why I've decided to use them. For bronzer today, I'm going to be using the Tom Ford bronzer in the shade Terra. So I have it in the old jumbo packaging. They don't make this size anymore. I actually bought this on Gilt, and I think it was available on Gilt just because they had discontinued this size. So I'm going to use this, and I'm going to talk a little bit to you about it as I use it. So I have been looking in my drawers recently and kind of being like, one of my rougher brushes just shed again. I feel like they just keep on shedding. The thing is, I'm thinking about end of the year. I also didn't contour today, which is something that I usually do. So if my makeup looks different, that's probably why it will. I just forgot to do it. And then I actually don't right now have a powder contour. I only have cream contours. And when I think of my bronzers, I feel like this one is the one I've used the least this year. Now, I've gotten quite a few bronzers this year. A couple were through PR, a couple were just to review. So like I bought a bunch of the Phytosurgeons bronzers to do a review of those, and I kept 2. Surat sent me 2. I only kept one of those. And then I just was like looking at my bronzers. I was like, I just have so many. And what I'm kind of learning as my channel continues to grow and I have more opportunities to try things is that I think my end of the year declutter is gonna have like a different vibe to it. Very similar to like when Hannah moved, or when Hannah did her really big declutter. Well, it was last year. Hannah did like a really big declutter where she was like looking for her precious. And I think that's going to be very similar to what my end of the year declutter is going to be. Now, it's not going to be ruthless for the sake of being ruthless, but I can't keep beautiful things that I'm not going to want to use all of the time. And that's what it's really boiling down to for me, is like, which things are the best. Now, that bronzer is really beautiful. It really is. It's my oldest bronzer in my collection, I'm fairly certain at this point. So I've had it for a while, and like you can still even kind of see the embossing on it, but I feel like I've used it quite a bit. It's like one of those things where it's like, do I want to keep it to keep using it? Because I do like it, right? But do I like it more than some of the other things I have? And so that's kind of the mindset I'm going into the end of the year is, what is the best and what is the best that I actually use? Because I think there are things that I have that are the best that I don't want to use. And that's okay. And that might not make sense to you, but as I continue to review things, as I continue to get PR, and the idea is that my channel keeps growing, so those opportunities come by more and more. The thought of me casually keeping things every now and then, which is like kind of what I did this year on a much smaller scale than what it could be in the future. I look in my blush drawer and I feel overwhelmed, so I need to like pare it down. Now, just because I say that doesn't mean that I'm going to automatically get rid of things just because they're discontinued. That's not, no, I want to keep my favorite. And so speaking of a thing that is like my favorite that I wouldn't be getting rid of, is this Chanel blush, which was a limited edition thing that seemed to only be available in America for a hop, skip, and a jump. But I was recently informed that both shades of this are still available in Europe. I wonder if we could buy them on Selfridges in America. That would be like the only place that I could think. But this is the Chanel Harmony blush in Rose Mauve. And I'm just going to apply that because we're going to be doing purple on the eyes, and I'll explain why whenever I get there. But look at that. It's so pretty. Someone left an interesting comment about Refer in one of my videos where I talked about them. The brand is like run by tech bros, and Temptalia was like, I'll never review any of their brushes. And then I had to Google it, and then I couldn't find Temptalia's thing, but I did find like a Reddit thread about it, and I read the Reddit thread only to the point where I read the end of like the Temptalia's comments. And I think Temptalia might have her own subreddit too. Temptalia didn't like the vibe. And I think fair enough. Like, you can absolutely read about it. I understand why Temptalia feels the way she does about it. And I could also understand why other people wouldn't want to buy from Refer for the same reasons of Temptalia. I'm not going to be here shelling Refer brushes to you all the time because that's just not the nature of what I do. All that to be said, I have used my Refer brushes a little bit more, a little bit more. I do think that this blush brush is really good. And I think it's kind of better than some of the other blush brushes that I have. For me, like this and this, I'm going to favor the Sonia G brush over this. But also, like, you can do whatever you want with your money. That wasn't to deter you from buying Refer brushes. It was just one of those like pieces of information that I hadn't heard. And I thought that it might be something that you hadn't heard and you might want to check out. If I find a Refer brush that is like unique and I would buy it, I would still buy it. That's like my personal thing. But again, totally understand why someone wouldn't after reading it, because it was like I guess like the whole thought from them, I guess, at the time of launch, which can't be the way they feel anymore because they have so many brushes. It was like these tech bros that have never done makeup trying to come in and trying to like simplify the brush, like you like trying to say that you only need so many brushes, and then it's like they make so many brushes now. So I'm wondering if their philosophy has changed a little bit, but it was just very interesting to read about. It was like something I didn't know about Refer. I had only ever heard like influencers talk about them, and I don't know. I guess it never dawned on me to like look at Refer to see more about them. For highlight today is just kind of like with the Tom Ford bronzer, is I'm using it to see if it's like something I will want to keep around at the end of the day. I have a feeling that this has a less likely fate than the Tom Ford bronzer of sticking around, but it's the Makeup Forever Pro Glow highlight in 01 Rose. It might be Rose, but I can only see Rose. I bought this for my Makeup Forever review, and at first I didn't really like it, and then I came around to like really liking it. And the thing that it reminds me the most of that I already own is the Torche Lumiere from Surratt, which I really like, but that's a cream. But my thought is, I don't really need both of them if they are that similar, but I'll hold on to it till the end of the year. It's very interesting. It, much like the Torche Lumiere, has shimmer particles in it, but I feel like whenever you put it on the skin, it looks really airbrushed and really glowy and good. But I'm gonna reach for my Torche Lumiere over it because I just like that product a little bit better. Putting it on just now, it was like, let me make some points, and I think it looks really beautiful. But I think ultimately it will get decluttered, and I will find a home for it for someone who will love it a lot more than me, because I do think it's a really good highlighter. It came into my life around the same time as the Torche Lumiere, and it was like, oh, these are kind of very similar and in color and kind of in texture. I mean, meaning like on the face, they kind of look very similar, and it was just kind of like, oh, well, you were very nice to try. For the eyes today, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be inspired by Carly Bybel's new palette, which is Bible. It's Bible because it's called was it the Beauty Bybel? Which, if I had just read the name of the brand whenever I was talking about it, I would have put two and two together that it's Bible and not Bybel. I'm inspired by the Carly Bybel palette. Oh, so my plan is to build an eye of neutrals and then do. There was this beautiful lilac shade in well, it looked lilac. It might be a soft pink in the Carly Bybel palette, whatever the new palette from Carly Bybel is called. I want to kind of emulate the look of that on my eyes. So I'm just going to do a very simple matte eye look. I'm going to use Beautopsy. I do want to share with you a thing that I did. So I was using the last loose powder I had, the Pat McGrath loose powder, and I was using that to set my eyeshadow base. I also will use like creams. I had one of these left over from Makeup Forever. And what I did is I pulled some like cream and white eyeshadows, and I've been using these to set my eyeshadow base. I just thought that would be like a really handy way. And I keep that in my top drawer. And then whenever I do powder eyeshadow looks, I just will pull this out and do that as the base. If the palette that I'm using has like a cream that I can use to set my eyeshadow base, I'll use it. So today I'm going to be using the Hindash palette. So I'll just be using all of it from there. I'm going to prime my eyes with the NARS eyeshadow base, and then I'm going to use the shade Tan from this palette to set that. If there's one thing that I have a plethora of right now, it is like really pretty like lavender lilac eyeshadows, because if you don't know, I'm currently trying to dupe a shade in this Pat McGrath palette. It's not going very well. So what's happened in my journey to dupe this eyeshadow, and I actually have the Pat McGrath palette, but I don't want to keep the Pat McGrath palette, which is why I'm on a hunt to replace it. But let me reiterate in case it's not clear, but sometimes I don't think it is clear. If I didn't have a YouTube channel, I would not be searching for a dupe. It's solely for the purposes of doing a video when I get rid of that palette to be like, here are a bunch of purple eyeshadows and a bunch of formulas. I just feel like I need to reiterate that, because like, I don't think you as a consumer, solely as a consumer, your job is to find dupes. Now, you might accidentally find a dupe here and there, and if you share that information, it's really great. I don't think anyone who isn't producing content in, you know, on Instagram and TikTok or whatever, that isn't able to like monetize that content should be spending hundreds of dollars on purple eyeshadow to try to dupe one eyeshadow shade in a palette where like I've definitely already spent more money on eyeshadows than I did on the Pat McGrath palette. Like, that doesn't make any sense for you as a consumer. You know what I mean? Just keep that in mind. It's a holiday this week. It's a holiday this week. The things that I'm thankful for about Thanksgiving is that I don't have to work. I don't have to work that day, and Tiffany and the child are coming to my family's Thanksgiving, which is really nice. I really love my family, and maybe you feel like this too. So I'm saying this hopefully to make somebody feel less alone, where it's just like spending time with your family can be daunting. Like, I don't really have like negative feelings towards my family. It just is like a little bit daunting. I feel like my family doesn't really know me, but I'm also kind of sure that if I said that to my family, I would be the one who's like blamed for them not knowing me. I kind of have this rebuttal where it's like, no one chooses to engage with me on a way where I would like to be engaged with. It's always like, why am I not doing what the majority of them are doing? So like, they all like to go camping, and I don't like to go camping. And when I say camping, let me just clarify that it's not camping. It's more like parents have a double wide on like a large property, and everyone goes up there all the time. They all go up there all the time, and they all spend a lot of time together. And so they've all bonded, but like, I don't want to go up there. So anyway, so when I see like extended family, they're like, why don't you come up? Why don't you come up? Why don't you come up? And I'm just like, I don't want to. As someone who has hundreds, I probably at least 100 hours of content of myself that exists on this internet, if they wanted to know more things about me, they could do this, and they could also talk to me. But it's almost as if, because I refuse to go up to the cabin that they all spend time at, it's my fault that they don't know me, when it's just like, you could text me too. And then what I will say is like, my nuclear family was at my surprise party, but like no one else was. But also Tiffany threw that, but like also my extended family didn't wish me a happy birthday, which is fine. It's like, they question why I feel othered, and I'm like, if I did this, what I'm doing with you, it'd be like, well, you're not the one talking to us. And it's just like, I think that there's like a vast misunderstanding of like who I am as a person in my family, if that makes sense. I was talking to my cousin the one year, and I was like, oh wow, you really like don't know anything about me, because like I talked about how I work from home and how I've been like pouring time into what we're doing right now, pouring time into like the YouTube channel. And she's like, I just always think of you as someone who's so social. No, no, that's not me. I don't really I don't really love being social. It's not really, I wouldn't say that's my thing. Now, like, definitely obviously have friends and such, but like, she was talking about how she recently had to start working in the office and she was like, God, I'm so happy I'm working in the office. And I was like, well, I really love that for you. But I was like, I would quit my job in a second if they told me that I had to work in an office. She was like, oh, but you're like so personable, you're so social. And I was like, no, I will be personable and like I will do all of that stuff in social situations because that's like the expectation. I also feel uncomfortable if I like feel like I'm being antisocial in a public situation where like there are other people. Like that's not kind to the other people who are also in that social situation. All this to say is if you're like prepping and you know, you might be heading into some like stuff that you're not excited about, just know that I see you, I feel you, I hear you, and chosen family is still a family. And you can choose to spend time with those people as opposed to, you know, your actual family if that's what you would rather do. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna do a khaki trick. I'm gonna do a khaki trick. I'm gonna take a little bit of my blush and I'm gonna kind of just like put that on the outside of the eye look because I want to bring some like cool tones in, but not like a ton. I don't want it to be like I'm gonna put purple on the lid, but like it's not gonna be like super icy. This is actually what I've been thinking about the most heading into Thanksgiving time. So last year I was dating this guy and he invited me to his Friendsgiving. And I was like, I hope they don't, this is my literal thought. I was like, I hope they don't take pictures at this Friendsgiving because who knows if I'll be around. I wasn't trying to be cynical. I was just trying to be a realist, right? I was like, I would prefer not to be in these pictures. I wouldn't. I would just prefer not to. They took a bunch of Polaroids and I ended up being in a handful of them. And the crazy person thought that keeps running through my mind is I want to text him. And like, we didn't end things on bad terms, this person and I haven't talked to him since we broke up or like we broke things off. He's the kind of person, like if I saw him in public, I would be like excited to see him and I would say hello and ask how he's doing. I still have his phone number. I don't think he blocked me. Like there was like literally there was no ill will. There was no bad blood between me and this person. I would, but my crazy brain is like, I'm gonna text him and be like, if the Polaroids of me still exist in this friend group, I would really appreciate it if like if you removed them. Because it's like, yeah, exactly what I thought might happen ended up happening, where it's like literally like weeks after that, things were broken off and it was fine. Again, fine. I mean, I was sad about it in the moment, but like, again, no ill will. And it's just like, it bothers me that those pictures exist because it feels like some kind of like rookie mistake I made. And I was just like, well, here I am. And the thing was, it was just like, he wasn't bothered that these pictures are being taken. And I was like, okay, okay. Here we are now. Before I put shimmer on, I am going to put some Cocoa from Victoria Beckham on. Just going to like do some smudgy liner right along the lash line. I just got a notification from ShopMy. So ShopMy is an affiliate linking platform and it gives you like direct access to brands and it shows the brands like how much you've sold of their product and it also shows I think the brands how much you sold of like other brands anyway, as you work your way up you get like more and more access to brands. And over the weekend some people on Instagram helped me out and got me over the hump to the highest tier, not by shopping but by joining the platform, which if you were one of those people, thank you very much. And so since I was finally in the top tier, I was like, well, the worst that these brands could say to me asking if they would send me like PR is no. And so I sent so many. I sat on my computer and like for an hour I was like messaging brands, like sending brands messages, and I was like, I'm this person, and they've been responding to me today. And what I will say is that I have messaged brands in the past and they've given me like the cold shoulder. All of these brands that have responded so far have been very kind and like actually responded to me, which I appreciate. What I'm assuming that shot my notification was another brand being like, we're not doing gifting right now, which is totally fine, by the way. It was a shoot your shot thing, but it was like very funny because I was just like cracked my knuckles yesterday and was like, let's see what we can do. There were some brands though that did respond to me and they were like, just because of like the holiday season, we're not doing any gifting right now. But they were like, we would love to work with you in the future. Like after we get like once things settle down from like Black Friday, which is obviously makes a lot of sense. But again, I was just shooting my shot. I shot my shot. What happens when I do this smudgy look is that on my right eye, I always do, I get so close to my lash line, and then on my left eye, I like can't get as close. So the smudgy liner ends up being like all the way up to my crease, which is, it's fine. I've been doing my eyeliner before I've put it on shimmer shades recently, because the shimmer always, that's when I get fallout for the most part, is whenever I'm applying eyeliner after a shimmer has been applied. We're now at the point where I'm going to put some kind of sparkly purple on. Do you want to see what brand messaged me back? Let's see. Let's see if they said no. That one was actually someone saying that we will send you stuff, so maybe I should be on camera more. This came in the mail today. I was like, I don't know if I'll be able to work it in, but Glaminatrix, I think this is already something you can't buy. It was like limited stock. They were doing a very small run. So Glaminatrix released the Fairy Lights palette, and I purchased it because I had been lusting over the Moondust eyeshadow palettes, and I was like, I don't think that's what I actually want. And then I bought this. In theory, this is like a lilac-y shade, like a smoky lilac shade, which could work because it kind of looks like what was in the Beauty Bybel palette. What I think actually would make more sense in skill. My thought was, this is the shade Zebra from Chantecaille, as you can see here. And someone said, you should try applying that wet. And I thought, that would probably also look a little bit like what the Beauty Bybel shade. So I'm going to pick some up on a brush, and I'm going to spray some Fix Plus. So I don't want to get the actual eyeshadow wet. With my Pat McGrath shades, I don't actually mind doing that, but this shadow cost $56 all on its own. So let's see. I've used it dry, and it's really pretty dry. So actually, I'm not doing lavender at all. I'm doing whatever shade this is. I knew that it wasn't going to be lavender, but I also really couldn't tell if in the Beauty Bybel palette if it was lavender. Man, I really like this shadow. So the thing about these Chantecaille shadows is, I don't know, in my right mind as someone who reviews makeup, can say to you with my full chest that these are worth the $56 that they cost. What I will say is that I have enjoyed having mine, but like I also feel like that comes with like the caveat of like, I like luxe things, and while I don't always think Chantecaille is luxe, and I've had one of their quads before and I was like unimpressed by it, I feel like I like this so much more than I liked their quad. I would say my cap out of recommending a single to you is like 40. 40. And like even then, I don't want to have to recommend a $40 single eyeshadow to you. It all comes down to whether or not you think is worth it. If there was like indie eyeshadows for people who have maybe eyelids that are maybe a little more crepey or a little bit more textured or a little like, you know, I feel like this is like what it is, because they're really, they're not like the most, obviously the most sparkly thing, but they just have like this really sophisticated shine. Now, I absolutely think that you could find this kind of shine in any kind of eyeshadow palette, but there is something about it. There is something to be said for this. I'm gonna also take a little bit on my finger and then press it on top. Chantecaille is doing 25% off, and I almost bought Rhino. If I do buy another one, Rhino would be the next one. Sometimes you just need to like, look at that. If I just stay a little bit blurry, it's delicious. It's delicious. So I don't feel like I have like a lip product specifically to talk about. I did buy, you know, if you paid attention, I have now 4 of the YSL Candy Glaze lip products. So I'm going to put, I don't think I need to spray my face. That was like what I was trying to discern just now. I don't think I need to spray my face. So I'm going to apply mascara, and then we will figure out a lip together. You know what I've been watching a lot of? I've been watching a lot of the Try Guys recently. Because Tiffany is like more involved in Try Guy culture than I am. And they were watching Keith eat the menu, and then I like watched it passively. Like I like walked through the room a couple times, and I was like, "That's pretty funny." And then I've been watching Without a Recipe. If you don't watch that, it's basically like Nailed It, but not always cake, like, or always. So, sometimes they'll make something completely different. Anyway, I've been really, really getting my tee-hee-hees from that. Okay, I'm learning a lot about my camera in this video. I'm recording a little bit longer with my battery. You know, I've been really into the candy glazes, and I don't want to put one on today because I'm wearing the one like a lip balm, by the way. Maybe I haven't worn. I feel like Kackie's lip gloss from the Summer Abroad collection. would look really cute with this because it's just a little bit of warm shimmer. Also, I don't think my lips could handle a matte lipstick right now. You know what's so funny is I haven't put any lip balm on today. My battery is dying, so I'm gonna wrap things up. If you are new to my channel and you enjoyed today's video, I hope you will subscribe. It's a lot of this, a lot of loving on my makeup collection as it currently is. Make sure you subscribe if you would like to. You don't have to. You could join my Patreon. I do extra content over there. You don't have to join my Patreon. My podcast with Kackie of Kackie Reviews Beauty drops every week over there. And I also do additional content that's just myself. I have merch down below. I feel like I'm on a timer. It's like flashing red at me. It's like I'm stressed. I'm stressed. I miss not having a battery to worry about. Anyway, I'm going to wrap things up. Remember to follow your hope and you'll find me. I'll see you in a video very soon. Bye-bye.